What if the most important relationship in human history started not with a plan, but with a pair of yellow eyes blinking at you from the dark? Picture this, it's 15,000 years ago. You're a hunter-gatherer somewhere in Eurasia. Every single day is the same brutal cycle. Wake up, find food, try not to die. And one night, sitting by your fire in the middle of nowhere, you hear something moving just beyond the light. You freeze. And then, out of the shadows, an animal appears. It doesn't run. It doesn't attack. It just watches you. And something inside you decides not to throw the spear. That moment, quiet, accidental, almost invisible, is probably where the entire story of dogs begins. Not in a kennel, not in a laboratory, around a fire, in the dark, between two creatures who had absolutely no idea what they were starting. And here's the thing, it didn't happen anything like the way you've been told. If this already has you curious, go ahead and hit that like button. It genuinely helps more people find this story. Subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. And drop a comment below. Does your dog ever look at you like it truly understands you? Because by the end of this, that question hits very differently. Here's something that might completely change the way you look at your dog. Every single dog that has ever existed, every single one, is, biologically speaking, a domesticated subspecies of the gray wolf. The scientific name is Canis lupus familiaris. That's not a metaphor. That's not a loose comparison. That is the actual classification. Your dog and a wild wolf share the same species origin, separated only by thousands of years of an extraordinary and accidental transformation. And when we say every dog, we mean it. The German Shepherd, powerful and precise. The Golden Retriever, endlessly gentle. And yes, the Chihuahua, that tiny, trembling creature that somehow believes it can take on the world. All of them, descended from wolves. The physical differences are almost absurd when you line them up side by side, and yet the DNA tells a story that science cannot argue with. Now, scientists have been trying to pin down exactly when this transformation began, and honestly, they're still fighting about it. The current estimates place dog domestication somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago. That's a massive window, and the reason it's so wide is because ancient bones don't come with labels, and DNA, while powerful, gets complicated across tens of thousands of years. What we do know with certainty is something far more striking than the date itself. Dogs were the first domesticated animal in human history. Not cows, not goats, not horses. Horses weren't domesticated until about 6,000 years ago. Dogs were already living alongside humans when our ancestors hadn't even figured out farming yet. This bond existed before civilization as we know it, which makes one question impossible to ignore. How, exactly, did it start? There's a version of this story that feels almost like a fairy tale, and honestly, it's the one most people still believe. A prehistoric human stumbles upon a litter of abandoned wolf pups. He takes them in, raises them by the fire, trains them, and creates the ultimate hunting companion. It's warm, it's cinematic. It makes for a great story around a campfire. There's just one problem. It's almost certainly not how it happened. Here's what that romantic version gets completely wrong. Wolves are not domesticable, not as adults, not even as pups raised from birth by humans. You can give a wolf puppy every possible comfort, warmth, food, love, human contact from day one, and it will still be, at its core, a wolf. The instincts don't disappear. The unpredictability doesn't fade. Zoos and wildlife sanctuaries have known this for centuries. The idea that some ancient human simply willed a wolf into becoming a loyal companion is the kind of thinking that ends badly. So if humans didn't tame wolves, what actually happened? The leading scientific theory is both surprising and oddly poetic. The wolves domesticated themselves. As early humans became more effective hunters, they started producing something no other predator in the ecosystem was generating consistently: garbage, leftover bones, discarded scraps, food remains. And for an opportunistic animal, a reliable food source near a human camp was an extraordinary advantage. The wolves that edged closer weren't the dominant, aggressive ones. Those kept their distance. The ones that approached were calmer, less fearful, more curious. They got fed. They survived better. They had more offspring. The aggressive wolves, staying away, struggled. Generation after generation without any human intention whatsoever. Natural selection began quietly, invisibly shaping wolf behavior in one very specific direction: toward us. We've been talking about wolves edging closer, changing slowly, becoming something new. But there's a question that doesn't get asked nearly enough. What were the humans doing during all of this? Because this story has two sides, and the human side is just as fascinating. At some point, someone looked at one of those calmer, less threatening wolves lingering at the edge of camp and made a choice. Not necessarily a conscious, deliberate choice, but a choice nonetheless. They didn't throw the spear. They let it stay. And that moment, repeated across different people in different places, is exactly what the genetic evidence suggests. Domestication didn't happen once in one magical location. It happened multiple times independently, across vast distances in East Asia, in the Middle East, possibly in Europe as well. Different wolves, different humans, different campfires. But the same pattern emerging over and over. Two species slowly, cautiously discovering that the other one was useful. Because the partnership, once it began accelerating, was extraordinarily practical for both sides. These protodogs were alerting humans to approaching predators before human senses could detect them. They were assisting in hunts, tracking scents, cornering prey. They were, in every sense, a living alarm system, and the hunting advantage rolled into one. And humans, being humans, responded to what worked. They fed the friendlier ones more. They let the calmer ones sleep closer than inside. Without fully realizing it, they began actively selecting for the traits they preferred in a companion animal. What emerged from all of this was something neither species planned and neither species could have predicted. A coevolutionary partnership so deep and so effective that it reshaped both of their trajectories forever. And that bond didn't stop at survival. It went somewhere far more intimate than anyone expected. Here's where this story stops being just history and becomes something deeply personal, because dogs are not simply wolves that learned good manners. The domestication process rewired them cognitively in ways that are genuinely extraordinary. And one of the most stunning examples is almost embarrassingly simple: point at an object across the room. Your dog will follow your finger and look at it. A wolf won't. Not even wolf pups, raised entirely by humans from birth, will do that reliably. It's not training, it's not habit, it's genetic. Dogs are born understanding human gestures in a way no other animal on the planet naturally does. And then there's eye contact. In wolf society, holding another animal's gaze is a direct challenge, a declaration of dominance or aggression. It's dangerous. But dogs evolved to do the opposite. They seek your face, they hold your gaze. They look at you searching for meaning, for information, for emotional connection. That shift alone represents one of the most profound behavioral transformations in the animal kingdom. What happens in that moment of mutual eye contact between a dog and its person is nothing short of biological. Studies have shown that when a dog gazes into your eyes and you gaze back, both of you release oxytocin, the bonding hormone, the same chemical that floods a mother's brain when she looks at her newborn baby. A carnivore, descended from one of nature's most efficient predators, was biologically reprogrammed to trigger feelings of love and attachment in us. And it goes even deeper than hormones. Researchers discovered that dogs have a specific facial muscle wolves simply don't possess, the levator anguli oculi medialis. It's the muscle responsible for that irresistible, heartbreaking, puppy eyes expression. That muscle was selected across thousands of years of evolution for one reason alone: because it works on us, because it makes us want to protect them, feed them, keep them close. 10,000 years ago, when humans were just beginning to figure out agriculture, dogs were already there. Not on the periphery, not as tools kept at a distance, but deeply woven into the fabric of human life. And we know this not from theory, but from the ground itself. Archaeologists have uncovered ancient human burial sites containing dog remains, not as food, not as offerings, as companions, buried alongside the people they lived with, in some cases with a human hand resting gently over the animal's body. Someone, thousands of years ago, in a world of brutal and constant survival, chose to grieve a dog. What followed that early bond was something remarkable. Once humans recognized what dogs could do, they began shaping them with intention, breeding for hunting, for herding livestock, for guarding, for pulling sleds through impossible terrain, for war, and eventually simply for companionship and comfort. In roughly 15,000 years, we took a single domesticated canine and produced everything from the Great Dane to the Dachshund, a range of physical diversity that has no parallel anywhere else in the animal kingdom. and most modern breeds as we know them today were only formally defined in the 19th century, when selective breeding became a competitive pursuit in its own right. Today, dogs sleep in our beds, appear in our wills, and have birthday parties thrown in their honor. To anyone looking from the outside, it might seem absurd, but it's actually the oldest story we have. In every other domestication in human history, cattle, horses, pigs, chickens, humans were clearly, unambiguously in control from the beginning. With dogs, it was different. They came to us first. They rewired their brains to understand us. And somewhere along the way, without realizing it, we rewired ourselves for them too. Neurologically, emotionally, culturally, some researchers now argue seriously that the dog-human bond may have been a meaningful factor in the rise of human civilization itself. We didn't just create dogs. In ways that are still being discovered, dogs helped create us. If this story moved you, if something about that image of a human hand resting on a dog thousands of years ago made you feel something real, then you already understand why this channel exists. We're here to explore the hidden stories that shaped humans, animals, and the world we live in a way that's hard to put into words. If that's you, subscribe right now. You belong here. Drop the word bond in the comments if this video spoke to you. It takes 2 seconds and it tells us that this kind of content matters, which means we'll keep making it. And if you want to keep going deeper, the next video is already on your screen. It connects directly to everything we just explored, and I promise it's worth every second. Hit the like button before you go. It genuinely helps more dog lovers find this content. We'll see you in the next one.